Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. I'm Christy Gilhoy with the Employee Recognition and Engagement team, and I really appreciate all of you taking time to engage on this important topic. Before I introduce our speaker, I want to set the context for why meaningful recognition is so critical here at Qualcomm. So here's the latest data, and what this shows us is that only 29% of our employees feel like they're getting meaningful recognition on a weekly or a daily basis. And you may say, we're all high performers, we're all grown-ups, why would we need recognition on such a frequent basis, especially daily? Well, this data also directly correlates with intent to stay. So those people who are receiving daily, weekly, and to a lesser extent monthly recognition are highly correlated for being here or seeing themselves on the Qualcomm team in the next 5 years. And those people who receive recognition only at their annual review, whether that's meaningful recognition or never, are highly correlated with not intending to stay at Qualcomm. So all of you in this room, whether you're managing a team or not, can help us move the needle by really embedding this into our culture. So I want to just lead also with a toolkit that we've put together. It's a cross-functional team in HR. Just to give all of you tools, we just launched this. It's at Go Retention. So as you think about retaining good employees, this will give you practical tools to do that. So without further ado, I would like to introduce today's speaker. Dr. Bob Nelson is considered a leading advocate for employee recognition and engagement worldwide, and he's the only person who's done his PhD dissertation on this topic. He's presented on 6 continents and worked with 80% of the Fortune 500 companies. He has sold 5 million books. Now you guys have a copy with you as well. Those include 1,501 Ways to Reward Employees, 1,001 Rewards and Recognition Field Book, 1,001 Ways to Energize Employees, the Management Bible, Recognizing and Engaging Employees for Dummies, and his latest, 1,001 Ways to Engage Employees, that you have in your hands, most of you. Dr. Bob has been featured extensively in the national and international media, including the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, 60 Minutes, MSNBC, ABC, PBS, and NPR, and now Qualcomm. On a personal note, he has been an inspiring and educational mentor to me and a trusted consultant to Qualcomm as we've really worked over the last few years to look at ways we can make recognition more deeply integrated into our culture. The result of our work with Dr. Bob is a new comprehensive global recognition program that we plan to roll out in the coming months. So we're really thinking about and investing in this topic. Stay tuned. Breaking news, Dr. Bob was just hired by the United Nations yesterday to help them design and implement a recognition program for their 40,000 employees worldwide. So please help me welcome the guru of thank you, Dr. Bob Nelson.
Thank you. Sound. Thank you, Christy. There we go. Got to have the music. Can you hear that? A little bit, okay, good. Delighted to be here. It has been over a year that I've been working with Qualcomm. I come all the way from Rancho Bernardo. So, and it's a real pleasure to be able to work in town for a change. I'm always flying around. And in fact, I just got back in town yesterday. And I know a lot of you travel. Flying today has just become a whole challenge in itself. There's actually 20% fewer planes up in the air, and they're all smaller, more efficient, and every seat tends to be full. So it's really a challenge with security and whatnot. Finally, eventually you get on the plane and you pull out a novel or the newspaper. Darn if the guy next to me didn't pull out one of my books. And I thought to myself, what a great chance to be a mystery shopper. Excuse me, sir, what do you think of that book? And he got a little reflective. He said, when my boss gave me the choice of 3 books to read, this one was the shortest. So one of my claims to fame is I write short books. You got a short booking today from me. And I took that as a compliment because we're all kind of up against it. We're trying to do more with less or even more with even less, right? Who's got less to do this year than last year? Anyone? I'd like to talk to you. And so it's a challenge, and why we come to something like this is to pick up some ideas to help inspire us and that we can use going back to the job with our people to get a better efficiency, a better sense of commitment, a better inspiration from your team. And that's what I guarantee you'll have in our next 60 minutes. Some ideas that if you take them seriously and you put them into practice, I guarantee you it will have an impact on your employees, it'll have an impact on your team. And if you all do it, you can get a critical mass going in which actually will change the culture of Qualcomm to be a place that's a great company, even better, headed into the future. As increasingly we've got a tight labor market, you have to hold on to the people you have, and you have to increasingly, you're competing with up the road in Silicon Valley. You're competing with Google, you're competing with Facebook, you're competing with Twitter, LinkedIn for employees. It means you got to have cultures like that. I like to call those four the horsemen of the apocalypse. But increasingly, the Bay Area culture has morphed down to San Diego, and the expectations of employees here are looking for a lot of the same things. And at the heart of that is how they're treated. And at the heart of that is how they're treated by their immediate manager. Because you're the conduit to the rest of the organization for your people. And everyone goes to work for a great company, and more times than not, they leave because of a poor manager. I had my wife is a computer scientist. She worked most recently with a cybersecurity firm here in town, and she quit a couple months ago. And being a high-tech employee, she was going to work on her skills, take some online courses, and maybe end of the summer start looking for a job again. Well, within a week, she had 3 job offers. And this is the demand that's there now. And the reason she left is because her manager left. And she had a great manager. And once she left, it kind of fell apart for her. It wasn't the same place anymore. It wasn't as excited. And since she's left, she's had several people that work for her leave as well. So she was, I like to feel, is a very good manager, and I'm going to share the things I share from you. I've seen from a personal standpoint, as well as from my research, as well as my work with other companies on the topic. But without further ado, let me give you one of my favorite quotes from Bill Hewitt, co-founder of Hewlett-Packard. He once said, "Men and women want to do a good job, a creative job, and if they provide the proper environment, they will do so." I love this quote because just in one sentence, it says really where we've come from, where we are, and where we're headed, all in one sentence. Because for the longest time, managing our country is about what? My way or the highway. I'm the person in charge. Telling people what to do and having them do it. Since the Industrial Revolution, that's been management. Today, it doesn't work very well to have the attitude of just telling people what to do and expecting them to comply. I'm convinced that you can't force anyone to perform. It's always got to be their choice, increasingly. And as your employees have choices as to what to do with their life, their career, where to work, it changes the game as to their expectations and our need to take those seriously in order to have them fully engaged. So the days of just telling people what to do are over, but in a very real way, you can impact the environment that Mr. Hewlett talks about here, that you can meet people at their energy and take them to a new level. I'm convinced of that, and it's within the reach of every person in this room. And this is where it most matters, in your sphere of influence. So it's my hope is that you take to heart the things I share, and you, first and foremost, take them seriously, because a lot of the stuff that I share, it might feel like common sense. But common sense often isn't common practice. Voltaire said that in the 17th century. Common sense isn't often common practice. And so is the case today. So that knowing the information that's important is very different than doing it, making sure it happens with your immediate staff, and as you lead the charge on this. So this is true in every interaction with employees, in every assignment, in every delegation, in every Scrum meeting. every task you assign people, there's this sense of the motivation involved and the excitement and having them bring their A game to it. Let me give you an example here.
Oh, you're not just going to walk away and give up.
Duck.
You can get that. That's yours. Nobody else. Get in there and give it some heat. Give it some heat. Give it some heat. Get in there. You go in there and you go get it hard. You get it. You get it. That's the one right there. You get it. Yeah.
The essence of management right there. Bringing the forces to bear, helping someone overcome obstacles, perceived or real, to get the job done. Now, a little facetious there, but in essence, that's what we're talking about. In every assignment, in every task, bringing the best out of people, helping them as you can, setting them on the path for true success. Now, what we're going to cover in our brief time here is the employee engagement in a tight economy. I've already referenced that. The importance of creating a clear and compelling vision, the importance of the manager in doing that, recognizing and rewarding high performance, ongoing focus on career growth and development, the role of one's manager, and hopefully we'll have a little time left for some questions and discussion. How's that sound? We're going to make that all happen in the next 45 minutes. So the first one there, just a summary of some recent research about this whole topic. And I did my doctoral work with Peter Drucker, actually, on this whole topic. But there's a whole stream of research that comes out almost weekly about employee motivation and whatnot. And here's a few tidbits that I think are especially relevant for us today. Number one is 85% of employees feel overworked and underappreciated. 85%. And that's not hard to imagine because things move fast, there's a lot of demands, pressure to work harder, to do more. And as we become more high-tech, and I can't think of a company that's more high-tech than Qualcomm, we have greater efficiency. We're all working around the clock. We're all connected to work all the time. And that puts a squeeze on us. And so, John Nesbitt in 1983 in his book Megatrends, he said, the more high-tech we become, the more high-touch we need to assimilate that technology, to gain and regain meaning in our lives. So at some point, technology works against the human element. And I feel it's like your job to make that connection, to make the humanness come through in your relationships with your workers. 67% of companies report engagement is down. Engagement is a whole bundle of variables created by Gallup 22 years ago, many of which we're touching on here. Currently, it's at all-time low in America of companies of all types, profit, nonprofit, government agencies. It ranks in the basement. And increasingly, we're going to see why it's important that more companies are taking this seriously and strategically. 56% of employees right now report they're somewhat or completely dissatisfied with their job. And if you get dissatisfied enough, what do? Find a new job. 54% say they plan to find new jobs as they're able, as the economy changes. And there's certainly, for the people that you hire, there's no lack of opportunity. You have to have them more engaged and excited about the job they're doing now than the potential job they can have somewhere else. So when the headhunter calls them, they can say, no thanks, I like what I'm doing, I'm learning, I'm growing, my manager cares about me, no thanks. And that's what they do. Now, it would be nice if the people that did leave were the deadbeats that you wanted to get rid of. Not so lucky. According to the Harvard Business Review last year, 25% of the people that changed jobs were ranked as the top performers in their companies, however you measure that. And 76% of the younger workers, the younger generation, are the ones that have left and are leaving. And this is of major concern because the largest generation in your workforce right now is the millennials. Largest generation. And there's no doubt about the fact that they have a very different expectation of what the work relationship means for them and what the relationship with their leader, their manager means to them. Christy mentioned I was on 60 Minutes, and I got to tell you, they called me, and it was about this topic of millennials. I said, you sure you got the right person? I'm not a millennial. They said, no, we're positive we got the right person. Because from their research, they found that one of the defining characteristics of the younger generation is they expect recognition on a daily basis. This is a trophy generation. On a daily basis, they want to be praised, thanked, recognized, and this drives baby boomers nuts because they're focused on their own work, don't have time to recognize people, and that's what we have to overcome. We have to make it in the course of your daily repertoire, behavioral repertoire I like to call it, that you start doing recognition as a matter of course. Whether you're in the hallway, whether at the beginning of the staff meeting, whether it's certainly when a project finishes, that you're constantly focusing on what people are doing well, because that's the driver of getting more of that from them and from everyone else that saw you do it or heard that you did it. That you systematically, as a leader, send a message to other people that this is what gets noticed around here. This is what gives you visibility. This is what's going to lead to your advancement in our organization or in your career. And you make that case through your behavior, not through your words. So just as a starting point, so again, and I could have a dozen slides about the power of engaged employees and why today it's so strategic for so many companies, but here's just one. That Gallup has found that engaged employees are 18% more productive, they are 12% more profitable for the company, they are 27% less prone to absenteeism, they are 51% less likely to leave their jobs. And why would they? If it's happening for you now, if you like who you're working for and who you're working with, if you're learning, if you're engaged, you're glad to get up in the morning, why would you go somewhere else? And that's the reality of how it works. So, our question before us is, how can we best increase employee engagement? And I've worked with thousands of companies, and often, sometimes it's like the CEO that says, why do we have to do this? Or what, if there's just one thing we could do to fix this, to make it better, what would it be? I go, well, it's not just one thing, it's a lot of little things. But if there was just one thing to make a difference, it might look something like this.
When we asked Reebok to send us Terry Tate, some people thought we were crazy. But I'm a firm believer in paradigm breaking, outside the box thinking.
Hey, wait.
Wow! Break was over 15 minutes ago!
Since Terry's been with us, our productivity has gone up 46%. We're getting more from our employees than ever before.
No, you need a cover sheet on your TPS reports, Richard. That ain't new, baby.
Hey, Janice.
Hey, Janice.
But what's really impressed me is how Terry's become part of the Felcher family.
Yeah, baby.
He fits right in here.
That's alone, Mr. Call, dog.
Well, of course, we're not going to do that. But again, it's not any one thing. It's a lot of little things. It's thanking people when they do a good job. And this is research-based. For my research, I looked at 53 specific behaviors to see what most affect the motivation of employees today. And it's thanking them when they do a good job. It's asking them for their ideas and opinions. And if they have a good idea, giving them permission to pursue it, maybe giving them autonomy, flexibility, resources to get that job done. It's communication is certainly critical. It's if you're making a decision, involve them in it, especially if your decision affects their work. Even if you have to say, I've got to make the final decision, but I know it'll be a better one if I ask you first for your input. It's not a guarantee you're going to use it, but it's a consideration, and it in itself improves their motivation. And finally, if they make a mistake, you can be the manager that calls them out in front of others and embarrasses them in front of their peers, and bravo. You proved you're the smartest person in the room. You found their mistake. Meanwhile, they're getting their resume ready because they can't stand working for you anymore. How about instead, you take a breath and a step back and say, Tony, I don't think I would have done it the same way as you tried, but what'd you learn from that? That could be the best training you've had all year. I'm glad you made that mistake. Wow. Isn't that who you want to work for? The person that takes the relationship and the long-term relationship you have with that person into the here and now and how you treat them in the interaction right now versus a moment of being the smartest in the room? That's what true leaders do, that inspire their people, and that's why the people love working for them, things like that. So that's the short list. And by the way, none of those things cost any money. So we don't want to be sideswept by the whole money situation. Money's important, and Qualcomm's working to pay you as best they can, competitively and whatnot. But this is, regardless of what people are paid, they want to feel valued where they work. And first and foremost, they want to feel that from their leader. So I'm going to give you 4 key strategies to increase employee engagement. And a lot of these I've taken from the retention toolkit that you're all going to have access to that Christy mentioned. So I've kind of picked out the ones that resonated from my research and experience that I'll emphasize, and then some other stuff as well. So the first one is creating a clear and compelling vision. Okay, this is critical. You know that for every leader, they do this for their team. That people are excited. I mentioned the millennials. You know, 88% of them report that the money isn't their top motivator. 78% say that they'll work harder if they're challenged. 60% say they want to work for a company that has purpose, that gives them purpose and meaning to their life. Everyone wants to be part of something larger than themselves, and where we spend the bulk of our waking hours determines that. This is why this is so important, creating a clear and compelling vision. Now, we know that all performance starts with clear goals and expectations, so as fundamental as goal setting sets the stage for motivation. We know the best goals are few in number, specific in focus. You can't focus on everything. In fact, the longer your to-do list, the more likely you can put the whole thing aside and do something else. The best goals today are stretch goals. They're not too easy, they're not too hard. If they're too easy, they don't motivate us. We don't try. If they're too hard, if we think there's no way I can make that happen, we often don't even try. So it's got to be somewhere in between. It's got to be a stretch goal, and you get to that not by commanding it, but by dialogue and discussion. And so you ask people, so as you have your goals, even if goals come down from above, even if you have strategic goals, as you share those with your employees, you want to talk about them and ask them what they think and how can we help contribute to these goals in our department. And if you go to do that and no one has any input, you guys say, no, this is serious for us. We're going to meet again on this next week. I want you all to think about this. How do our strategic objectives, how do our core values relate to how we interact on a daily basis in the jobs we do? That's the job of the manager, to bring that connection, the big picture to our immediate picture. So I don't want to belabor the importance of goal setting, but this is where it starts. And in my 12 years in working on a PhD and on this whole topic area, I looked at a lot of models, a lot of research, a lot of theories, and there's only a couple that really popped out as saying have withstood the test of time. This is one of them. The second one, before I do that, let me give you some tips for creating a clear and compelling vision, actionable items that you can do in your own sphere of influence. Ensure that everyone in your team understands the division strategy and how it works, how their work connects to that strategy. So discussion, okay? Discuss the company's core values, providing examples of each, and actually, ideally, recognizing them for core values. And in the program that we have coming, we're hoping there's going to be the ability to recognize people for different core values, to highlight them in front of others in a way that causes them to want to do more of whatever the activity was, and again, others as well. Plan quarterly meet and greets with leaders for your team. Both a fun and a viable activity to give your employees visibility with others in the organization, to hear their perspective and to help them connect things. Watch all hands meetings together and discuss key takeaways. I remember I worked for one company I used to work for the Ken Blanchard organization for 10 years, and I was an executive there. And I just thought it was common sense. Whenever we had an executive meeting, within 24 hours, I shared whatever we discussed with my team. I just thought that was common sense. They needed to know it. And let me tell you, they loved it. And I found out that other leaders in the company didn't do that. In fact, other employees in the company would ask my employees about what was going on, in terms of the direction of the company and whatnot. And it gave them clout. It gave them power. People want to be in the know. You're talking about their career. They want to know not just about their job and about our team. They want to know what other departments are doing. They want to know, and part of that is to know where other opportunities for them exist. And they want to know that big picture stuff, and you're in the best position to share that as you know it. And if you're asked a question you can't answer, take it on to find that answer and get back to them. That's the essence of leadership, to say, I don't know, I haven't got that question before. That's a good question. Let me see if I can get an answer for you. And we'll talk about our next staff meeting. Wow, that's the leader people want to work for. So even more important than the first goal setting that I learned in my studies was recognizing and rewarding high performance. The most called the greatest management principle in the world, actually. You get what you recognize, you get what you reward, what you inspect, you get more of. Guaranteed in any human element. This works with your employees, it works with your boss, it works with your everyone in your life, every relationship. As you pay attention and you reinforce the behavior you want more of, you will get more of it. So recognition, in a nutshell, is acknowledging and appreciating people for their achievements. Please note, it doesn't say acknowledging and appreciating people for showing up to work. Okay? That would not be recognition. That would be, in fact, lacks meaning to people. So I want you to be skilled at discerning truly recognition, which makes people feel valued, which makes people feel special, from things that you might do that just makes them feel nice. Well, it's nice to work here. We have donuts on Friday, or we have, a holiday party. That might be nice. That doesn't impact their motivation to work harder for you on doing a good job. What does that is specific feedback in a timely, specific way about what they did personally. That is a keeper, and people crave that. So if you do stuff that it's not that specific, it's just general, and it's just doing holiday events and stuff like that, that might be good for the culture, but doesn't do much of anything for motivation. In fact, in the long term, what that tends to do, if you're only doing that, is you create a culture of entitlement, where people expect more from you just because they showed up. Hey, I'm here again. What do you have for me? So if any of you are fighting that, the way you get around it is you start focusing more on performance and calling that out. Excuse me. So although most employees want recognition, from my research, almost universal, 99.4% of employees expect to be recognized when they do good work. And that word expect didn't used to be in the equation. If you go back 10, 15 years ago, employees would say, well, it'd be nice if my boss did something or said something. But increasingly today, they expect it. They expect you to say or do something. And it doesn't just have to be you. It could be a peer, it could be someone higher in the organization, but they expect to be recognized when they do a good job. Now you can say it's not fair that you paid your dues, they got to pay their dues, and just know the millennials are not going to pay their dues. This is their expectation, and you either meet them at that, or they're going to find someplace else to work. It's as simple as that. So you got to kind of grin and bear it if this isn't natural to you to learn these skills and to actively practice them in your sphere of influence in every chance you get. So when you start a staff meeting, like when I worked with ESPN, a manager there told me, he said, whenever we start a staff meeting, we start with naming 5 things that are going well. And usually it's pretty easy, but sometimes it's not because things aren't going well. But we never skip that step because it's our touchstone. It's our home room, if you will. That it gives us the confidence and the energy to take on the new obstacles, the new challenges, whatever they may be. Bring it on. That you work that into your meetings, or you work it into when you see someone in the hallway, or as you're looking at your emails, you get good news, you pass it on to someone, you add a comment. So it's a simple thing, it's an easy thing that you can integrate, but it's not going to happen by accident. You got to have intent and to focus on it. So although everyone wants it, few employees say feel recognized. Would you believe out of 100% that want it, only 12% say they feel recognized in important ways. In fact, 3 times as many, about 34%, say that they're not recognized in meaningful ways. The things that are done in our organization don't speak to me. Don't get me excited about coming into work or getting up early or taking on the next assignment. They're in the environment, but they don't make me feel special. And that's what they're looking for. Now, so this is a challenge, especially given that 80% of managers feel they're pretty good at this whole topic. I read the 1-Minute Manager. I know it's good to be good to your people, treat them nice. I go, oh, okay, great. I've spent a lot of time interviewing managers, and I'll talk to their employees, and yeah, your manager say he does this, and are you sure we're talking about the same person? He never does that. When he first started the job 7 years ago, he did a few things, but no, he never does that. So this is a challenge to you. It's the knowing-doing gap. I'm giving you simple concepts, and you can say, oh yeah, I know this is important, I can do this. I know you can do it. I'm not here to say, can you do it? I already know you can do it. I'm here to say, will you do it? If your people were here, what would they say? What's your evidence that you're doing it? What will you do to hold yourself to your commitment to do it? How will you use your day planner? How will you use your interactions and up them to add this element to them? The knowing-doing gap. According to the Harvard Business Review, recognition given for high performance is the most impactful driver of employee engagement. Number one. In the book you have, and by the way, that's a research-based book. I looked at 3 million employee engagement surveys, did a factor analysis on it, and what variables most led to people being engaged, and I put the top 10 factors of the 10 chapters of that book. And the first one is this topic, recognition. That research indicates that 56% of your employees' feeling of being engaged or not comes from, are they recognized for doing a good job? 56%. There's not another thing you could possibly do that will give them more impact of having them feel engaged. Now you can say, well, I can give them a raise, I can give them a bonus. You know, money's important, we need money. But I tell you what, money, when someone's asked how they feel about their job, it's not the number on their paycheck as much as what a leader did to thank them for doing a good job. And I've asked that hundreds of sessions across the country, and it's always the things that come up are the things that don't cost money, that are done by someone they hold in high esteem, starting with their manager. And it could be an email, it could be a comment, it could be something in the presentation. Always simple, never costly. That's the power of this topic if you tap into it. So tips for better recognizing your employees, again, real quickly. Talk to your direct reports about how they like to be recognized. So this is actually a homework assignment. If you've never done this, go back, next staff meeting, have item 4 on the agenda. Hey, we heard this guy talk about this topic of recognition. It got me thinking, are we doing enough in our team? And the more I thought about it, the more I realized I can't answer that question, only you all can. So I wanted to ask, are we doing enough recognition? And then shut up and see what they say. If you have any amount of credibility with your team at all, no one's going to raise their hand and say, boss, I've just had it up to here with you telling me how good I am. When you knock that off, instead you find out about the missed opportunities. Well, we said when we finished that project, we'd do something to celebrate. We're kind of excited about that. But once you know we finished that project, and then we got 2 more of them on top right afterwards. The reward we got for doing a good job is we got more work on us. Wow, what's wrong with this picture? And actually, the Jerry was 2 weeks late on his work, and we gave him more time to work on it. We're doing the exact opposite of what we need to set the tone for this is the performance that matters. We're making it harder on people instead of easier. So your actions pave a way for this to be a high performance culture where people love working here. Try to recognize, or praise people weekly for your desired behavior. I think in the retention toolkit it says do this monthly. Monthly is not going to cut it. In fact, weekly is not going to cut it. You got to do it daily to get to everyone weekly. Okay? If you do it monthly, you could do it, well, I'll wait till the end of the month and do something, and then you're going to forget. And then, well, they went the whole quarter, you didn't do it, I'll make it up at Christmas, you know. And welcome to management. You know, you don't have, I was busy, you know. You can't be too busy for this. You got to work it into your day, into your interactions and your communications. I'd say daily. And then then it becomes a habit, becomes part of who you are, that you're always thinking, acknowledging people. We never are too busy to call out performance when we've achieved a goal as a team, or Sally finished a degree, or whatever it might be. You're the one that's first and foremost jumps on it. Start staff meetings, I mentioned this, with some type of recognition. Allow your team members to thank each other publicly. So do that. So, hey, I wanted to thank the group for this, and hey, does anyone else have any praisings? Now, the first time you do this, no one's going to say anything. What's with that? Yeah. But you planted the seed. And the next time when you ask again, does anyone have any praisings? One of your employees will go, well, yeah, actually I do. You know, yesterday I got a call bounced to Tom, and he took the time to help answer, and wow, thank you so much. The guy had been bounced around a couple times. Tom, thanks for covering for me. No problem. I got one too. Someone else says, I want to top it. I got something happening to me. And suddenly you're talking about what? Performance success that everyone's having. And you're speaking recognition, and it's leaving an impact. Celebrate team successes. And I know you guys do. I know Christy does a great job on a lot of this. Food lunches, ice cream socials. At Dow Chemical, whenever they have a breakthrough on something, they have an ice cream social, spontaneous. There's thousands and thousands of things you can do. It's all around you every day. Especially express appreciation to employees when they pitch in without being asked, take initiative, or they work long hours. They know they're doing that. Their family sure knows they're doing it. It'd be nice if their boss would notice, and maybe where possible, step in and help them as well. So those are a few tips in that regard. In essence, the most powerful aspect of all this is simple personal and public praise. I mentioned research I did on 52 specific behaviors that I factored into 12 factors, 12 dimensions, and that were most important for employee motivation. Of the 12, these 4 came out in the top 10. And I got to be honest, when I first saw this, I go, personal, electronic, written, and public praise, isn't this all one bucket? Isn't praise praise? And what I've learned on my journey is that praise is different when it's delivered differently. So it means something. Think about it from your own life. When someone told you your face, you did a great job, didn't that mean something different than if you got a note from your manager that you saved and put in a victory file or posted in front of your workstation? Of course it did. Or you got an email that you printed out, or a voicemail that you listened to 5 or 6 times. Or publicly, your manager said something in front of the team, or in front of the company, or on a company vehicle of communication, or passed on a letter that they got from a client, added a comment, and passed it on to their leader. Wow, that has a lot. All those have a lot of influence. You got to fire on every cylinder to be on top in the game on this. And again, so if you may be doing one of these, that's great. Build on it. Challenge yourself, stretch yourself to do another, to do it, and to make it, again, part of who you are on a daily basis. On this little praising card that you should have gotten, you came in, I've got these guidelines on for doing a great praising. You can do this in 10 seconds in the hallway. Okay, as soon as sincere, specific, as personal, positive, and proactive as possible. You can do it in 10 seconds. So timing's critical. The sooner you notice someone that has done a good job, the more you reinforce that behavior, the more likely it's going to be repeated. It's got to be sincere, which means it's got to come from the heart. It's hard to teach sincerity other than sometimes it comes from the specifics. So when you tell someone they did good, you can't say everyone's doing a great job. It doesn't have much credibility. But if you tell someone they did a great job, and here's your evidence, here's what you saw in their work, here's what you heard from the other team, use that because it gives credibility to praising. Ideally, you do it personally. I know a lot of times it's hard to do because you've got virtual workers or people are spread out. We've got listening on the phone, we've got 150 people. So that could be a challenge. But as best you can, you make the connection. It needs to be positive. Again, that would sound obvious. Of course, praising would be positive. But I've learned that a lot of managers, the way they praise is they'll say, Betty, thanks for that report for my 2 o'clock meeting. Pause. You know, there are a lot of typos in it. And Betty goes, well, I worked through my break to make it happen, and thanks so much. Next time I won't do it, you know. And so you got to, keep it 100% positive. If there's learnings, you save that for a development discussion sometime later. But right now, if you want to get that type of behavior again from that person, you better notice it and don't clutter it up with a takeaway. And finally, it's got to be proactive. You got to be leading the charge on this. You can't be reactive on it. If you're reactive, it's going to be around the problems, mistakes, and the challenges. You got to be proactive to look for the opportunity and jump on it on a daily basis, systematically. On this card, this is all around a 10-second activity. I saw what you did. People don't know what you saw. They really don't know what's in your head, especially if you're located in a different building, a different location. You got to be explicit about this. This is what I heard. This is what I saw. I appreciate what you did. In your own words. Here's why it's important. Here's how you tie it to the larger goals of your department, the core values of the company, the future of Qualcomm. It's this type of activity that's going to help us reach our quarterly goals, what you did here. This is the type of thing that exactly we're trying to get everyone to do more of. If you really want to leave a mark, get to the level of feelings, here's how it makes me feel. Okay? So good praising, even if it's only 10 seconds in the hallway, provides practical feedback that we all know to be on point and also provides an emotional charge. It's a 1-2 punch that you can't get more for your money than doing this. Mark Twain, in fact, used to say, I could live for 2 weeks on a good compliment. I think it's even longer today because of how infrequently it happens and how busy we all are. Finally, you can praise someone directly, which I'm advocating. You can praise them in front of others, which sends a different message. You can praise them when they're not around. Hey, your boss was singing your praises in our management team meeting. Oh, really? God, he must really think I'm doing a good job. For some employees, they don't really believe it's true until they hear that type of feedback. So experiment with it. You got my permission, you got Qualcomm's permission to experiment with this and find what works for you and to build on it. And when you find something that works, work to build on that. You find a technique that especially is good, do even more in that regard. I worked last fall with NASA Johnson Space Center in Houston, and they're ranked, by the way, #1 best place to work in federal government. Didn't surprise me a bit. I could feel it as I walked in the building. I heard it in their conversations. I saw it on their walls. It was a high recognition, high engagement environment. And one of the things I picked up from them, you've got my permission to use, their permission to use, is that whenever they get a group of their managers together, you got 10, 15 managers together, they always save 10 minutes at the end of that meeting to go around that group and ask everyone to share something they've done to recognize someone on their team since we last have been together. And they said you could just immediately feel the pride and the energy of the group raise. And they said they know something else, that our leaders would take notes on each other's ideas. That's a good one, Jerry. I'm going to try that. They become, as you can become, a self-learning organization around these powerful concepts where they get better and better and learn from each other, okay? And keeps them on top of their game. So if you take this seriously, and again, this would work for any relationship you have in your life. It would work for your team, guaranteed. If we get a critical mass of people doing it, you will have a culture of recognition. And this is what you stand to benefit from when you get there. That your employees will report they're 5 times more likely to feel valued than a company that's not doing these things. They are 6 times more likely to strongly endorse Qualcomm as a great place to work. They will be 7 times more likely to stay with Qualcomm for the rest of their career. This is the price of admission right here. You take this topic seriously, this is what it has, as Christy alluded to, the direct correlation between this topic and how long people plan to stay at Qualcomm. If you become the person that makes this happen, and this becomes an organization where we're always calling out what's going well, it's going to be a magnet for talent, and it's going to be a sustainer of the people you have now, and 11 times more likely to feel completely committed to their jobs. And we know that employee commitment, according to Towers Watson Willis engagement research, committed employees are 57% more provide more effort than uncommitted ones, which again stands to reason. So it kind of begs the question that I get a lot: why isn't money enough? Compensation, cost of benefits is a major, if not the major cost in most organizations. For a lot of organizations, 90% of the costs are right there. And so a lot of times I have executives tell me, well, we pay above industry average. Why isn't that enough? Why do we have to do more? And I don't know if it ever was enough, but clearly today it's not enough. You have to do more. But whenever I get a big question like this in my life, I like to turn to a higher authority for clarification. And yes, I'm talking about Seinfeld.
Maybe you won't like it.
Oh, how could I not like it? Of course I'll like it.
You could not like it.
Just the fact that you remembered means everything.
Of course I remembered. It reminded me every day for 2 months. Oh, the card.
Cash?
What do you think?
You got me cash?
Well, that's right. You can go out and get yourself whatever you want. No good?
Are you my uncle?
Hey, come on. It's $182 there. I don't think that's anything to sneeze at.
Let me see the card. to a wonderful girl, a great pal, and more.
Hey. Oh, Elaine, I'm glad you're here. Stay right here. I'm going to be right back. Okay.
Pal? You think I'm your pal?
I said, and more.
I am not your pal.
What's wrong with pal? Why is everybody so down on pal?
Oh, what is this?
Yeah.
You got me something?
Yeah, open.
Oh,
This.
Kramer. Oh, the bench! You got me the bench for my
It's pretty good, huh? Great. You remember when we were standing there and she mentioned it? I made a mental note of it. Well, good ain't for you. Oh, yeah. See, I'm very sensitive about that. I mean, someone's birthday comes up, I keep my ears open. So what'd you get her? $182. Cash? You gotta be kidding. What kind of gift is that? That's like something her uncle would give her.
Think where man's glory most begins and ends, and say my glory was I had such a friend.
Yates.
So Kramer nails it, but it's a serious question, and my former professor, Dr. Drucker, he answered it this way. He said, economic incentives are becoming rights rather than rewards. Merit raises are always introduced as rewards for exceptional performance. In no time at all, they become a right, they become an expectation, they become an entitlement. In organizations across America today, 85% of employees get the same increase each year. Okay? When that happens, it's no longer a pay-for-performance system. It's a right. I've been here another year. Lay it on me. And that is a slippery sliding step to entitlement culture, where all of a sudden it's not even important what I do. You owe me more. You got to do more. And you get out of that by getting ahead of the curve and start leading the charge around spotlighting performance and who's doing it in a systematic way on the part of the leadership of the organization. You know that less than 3% of base salary separates average from outstanding performance in our country? Less than 3%. Or as Rosebeth Moss Kanter puts it at Harvard, compensation is a right, it's part of the work contract. You have to pay people, okay? Recognition's a gift. You don't have to do it. If you choose to do it, which I hope you will, then it stands out all the more, because they've had good managers and bad managers, and they know what a good manager feels like. And it's only 1 out of 5 you'll have in your career you'll feel are a good manager. And you think twice, 3 times about leaving that person, because it may not happen again. So if you make this choice to give people recognition, they will respond, they will resonate. So and I got to pick up the pace here because I'm running out of time, but the second dimension here is ongoing focus on career growth and development. This is critical, especially for high-tech employees, critical for where Qualcomm currently is. Again, another area that's simple but is not going to happen by magic. All development is self-development. 90% of people's development comes from on the job. The assignments they have, the work that's done, the help that you give them, talking about how the work went. So that you have to up your game in doing more of this. This is a recent research that I found on why employees leave, so not just why they stay, but why they leave. And there are 2 factors that came out. And number 1 was compensation, so again, that's important. But number 2, right behind it, was my manager has made a personal investment in my growth and development. This is a differentiator between people staying, working for Qualcomm, or going to work with someone else. Is my manager, have they made a personal investment in my growth and development? What does that mean? It means talking. It means asking a question. Where do you want to be 5 years from now? How can I help you get there? What types of things would you like to explore? You're interested in that project? Let's put you over on that for a while. See how you like it. Maybe that's a career growth for you. Maybe that's going to be the next step for you. My wife, I mentioned, she's at a cybersecurity firm. She had 4 of her 14 employees last fall were promoted. Were promoted to management. she didn't take that she took that as an honor. She was glad to be part of their development, and they certainly were glad that she was as well. Okay? Now maybe that creates a little bit more work for her. She's got to find other good people, and she's got to develop and train them, but again, that's part of the role of leadership. One example, when I worked with American Express, they had a technique there that they taught all their leadership called label and link. It was a delegation technique. They say, when you assign someone work, you can do it a couple ways. You can say, Jerry, bad news, your turn to do inventory. Do I have to? Yeah, everyone's got their time in the bucket. And here, Jerry hasn't even started that task, whatever it is, he's already dreading it. Or you can take the exact same assignment. You can say, Jerry, we got inventory coming up. I immediately thought of you because we've talked about where you want to go in the organization, and I know you want to get into management. One of the key skill sets to get in line for a job like that is doing inventory or purchasing or IT or sales or whatever it might be for you. I thought this would be a great chance to give you some of that experience. Now, you got a lot on your plate now. I expect that all to be done. So if this isn't a good time, just say the word. I won't hold it against you. What'd you do? You just gave them choice. It's your choice, not my choice. I'm not forcing this on you. It's your choice. But if you do decide to say yes, there's going to be no such thing as a silly question. I'm going to do whatever I can in my ability to help you understand the skill set. Truth be known, I probably could do the task faster myself if I've just did it myself. But that's the time I'm willing to invest in you based on the potential I've seen you've had and the future you have with our company. So think it over. Let me know. What does Jerry say? I don't need to think it over. Thank you for thinking of me. I'd love to do that task. And regardless of what the job is, I guarantee you, they'll get through the other work faster to work on that new assignment where they get visibility with others, where they learn a new skill set. You're giving them growth in the job they have right now, not in the classroom, not something they do next year, but right now. This is the power you can harness. And did they do this and say, this would be fun to do this? No, they surveyed their employees and they found out it was very important for them to have development opportunities. And they asked that magic question, if we could be better at this, what would it look like? Here's what they came up with. If you ever run into anyone that works at American Express, ask them how they are for development opportunities. They will say, we're the best. And they are, because they took it on and they became the best, as you can as well. So tips, and all these tips are right out of the retention toolkit. When this starts, the first conversation with you have a new hire, you invite them to coffee or lunch, and you ask them about their job expectations. Of all the places you could have worked in, San Diego, what was it about working here? What do you hope to learn while you're here? Where do you want to be 5 years from now? What do you do when you're not at work? What hobbies do you have? Are you married? Do you have any kids? Do you have any pets? What are your pets' names? What's your favorite food, your favorite flower? The more you know about someone, the more fodder you have to motivate them. Not to manipulate them, not to trick them into working harder, but to align their personal aspirations with the strategic objectives of Qualcomm. This is the leader's job. It starts with the very first conversation. And then on an ongoing basis, one-on-one meetings. And again, I want to challenge you to do this every 2 weeks, to check in with people and have part of the conversation be, are you excited about what you're doing? Have you thought about what you might want to do next? How can I help you get to where you want to go in your career? Every one of your employees would love to talk about that. And there's some things you can do, there's some things you can't do, but you can, for every one of them, you can give them your best effort to help prepare. You can't promise them they're going to have a promotion, but I can promise you I'll do the best to help you learn the skills to put you in line for something like that. Every 2 weeks, ongoing conversation. My wife, again, my case study, she'd do this with walks with their employees. They go out for a walk so they get exercise. She comes home, I got all my steps today. I did my one-on-ones, People loved it. Hold skip-level meetings. Again, you're authorized. Your company wants you to do this with someone at least once a quarter, someone 2 levels above you. Connect them with those people. Hold project debriefings. I'm sure you do a lot of that already. Lunch and learns, cross teams, share best practices. The more you integrate this into all the things you're getting done, or in many cases, it's just adding on to what you're already doing. So when you get to the end of the project and you debrief, who else would like to hear about this project? Who else, you invite them, that type of thing. So the last point is just kind of come front and center of the role of one's manager. And from the Gallup organization, they found from their research of all the variables impacting engagement, this was the top one for them, that one's manager is the most important person for any employee in the workplace, has the most influence on their engagement. So take that seriously to make it a priority for you. As Jan Carlson put it, a positive example is the best way to create the right atmosphere. You can give people the security to take responsibility. And then again, these tips are again out of the retention toolkit, so I'm not going to read them to you, but it's the things I've already mentioned all these things anyway. So it's the opportunities you have to make that connection with your people on a daily basis. So the slide I do want to end with is, again, a simple notion that all behavior is a function of its consequences. To any type of behavior that someone has in their life, there's 3 possible consequences they can have: positive, negative, no consequence. Most employees today say that where they work, they don't get any consequences. There's not a lot of directions, there's not a lot of support. In fact, the only time they hear from their boss is when they made a mistake. This is, Ken Blanche used to call us the leading management style in America: leave alone zap, leave alone zap. The most powerful consequence is a positive consequence. Research indicates it's 4 times more powerful than other strategies. Gallup, in their research a couple years ago, came out with quantifying it 6 times more powerful. Dr. Stephen Covey used to talk about 7 times more powerful. Again, because we're so busy, because of the impact of technology, it means more when you call out and make the positive connection around something that someone did to get more. This is true in every relationship in your life. I'm making the case that it's true for your employees. It's also true for your boss. When's the last time you thanked your boss when they did something? It's also true for your spouse. It's true for your kids. You got kids, you're trying to get them to do something. You want them to clean their room. What are you doing to get that? You're nagging them? How's that working for you? Yeah, okay. Try finding something to praise them about. Well, they never clean their room. Well, what about the time they carry their folded laundry to the room? Could you thank them? Billy, thanks for doing that. It really helps Mom and Dad when you pitch in and show you're part of the family. Really appreciate that. Billy's going to help out next time too, okay? This is human nature. We're drawn towards positive consequences, and the people that provide them, we're shy away from negative consequences, and the people that provide those as well. And so on a closing note, use this in all aspects of your life. I've got 2 kids, Danny and Michelle. I remember when Danny was 5 years old, he came home from preschool and announced he'd like to take piano lessons. And my wife and I looked at each other. We'd never played a musical instrument. Okay, well, we can take piano lessons. And we thought, well, what do we do? How do we support this? Do we set up a practice schedule? And then do we force him to practice when he comes home from school? And we said, no, let's not do that. This is his thing. It's got to be his thing. Let's reinforce his thing. Let's catch him doing things right when he chooses to do it. We can't force this on him. And so that's what we did. We never told him to practice. But if he chose to practice, we'd always say something. Danny, those scales are coming along great. That song, did you pick it out? We know he did. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Get Grandma on the phone. We made a big deal of it. Within 2 weeks, he came home and said, can I take lessons twice a week? Yes, you can. First time he played publicly, he was about this tall. Another parent came over to us, all animated, and said, I've never seen someone so young play with such passion. What are you doing to get that performance from your son? This is what we're doing. We're staying out of his way, but we're systematically following the path that he's chosen. At one point, we're going to be out of the picture. It's going to be his or it's not. When he was 9, he played in a music festival in La Jolla. 180 kids. He was one of 3 selected to play for a music teachers conference. When he was 11, we were in our local library in Rancho Bernardo, and someone was playing piano. And Danny kind of cocked his head and said, I'd like to do that someday. And I looked at him and said, someday? Let's go talk to the librarian now. That's called opportunity. I would suggest that each and every one of you are swimming in opportunity, waiting for you to connect the dots between the real work that needs to be done and the people that want to do it if you set up the pins right. We did meet with the librarian. Dan came back a month later. He played 400 years, samples from 400 years of classical piano. To each one, he showed a picture of the composer and talked about what's going on in their life. I was kind of tearing up, you know, and then he turned to classical guitar and actually went on to get a degree in classical guitar from Northwestern in Chicago. Part of his degree included 4 years of Arabic. He told me learning Arabic helps him hear tonality in the guitar he couldn't hear before. He spent time in Spain learning the lute, which is the forerunner of the classical guitar. He spent time in Egypt learning the oud, which is the forerunner of the lute. He spent several summers in Italy working with the Grand Master. I gotta tell you, I don't know where this came from. I have no idea where it's going. But I know as sure as I'm standing here that I had an impact on this person that happens to be my kid in the same way that you have an impact on those people in your life that are important to you. So if you think of the short list of those people that are most impactful of your happiness and success in your life right now, your employees, your boss, some peers maybe in this room, your family, your best friends, neighbors, your church, whatever it might be, that short list that for all of us is maybe a dozen, maybe 20 people, at the point that you take any of them for granted is the point that you risk losing them from your life. It's that simple. I don't want any of you to be surprised one day when one of your best employees comes in your office and announces, "I'm leaving." And you find yourself saying, "You can't leave, you're my best employee." And you go, right. I can't remember last time I heard that. Oh, actually I can. It was during the interview process 5 years ago when I beat out those other 7 people. Was I ever excited to come work at Qualcomm? Yeah, Tuesday would be my last day. Well, where are you going? Are they paying you more? Yeah, they gave me a bump. Is that why they're leaving? Did they wake up that morning and say, "I'm going to leave"? No. They died a death of 1,000 cuts. The time they had that idea and you said, "Oh, we tried it 2 years ago, it'll never work." The time that they were talking in the meeting and you cut them off, you interrupted them, you didn't even realize you did it, and they realized it did. And after a while, you made the case through your behavior that they weren't as important as they thought they were. Put them in their place. It's time to go find a different opportunity. Don't let that happen to you, because every one of them want to have it happen here, and you need them for the future of Qualcomm. And with that, I cede. Thank you so much.
Big hand for Dr. Bob. I'm sure he's willing to stay for a few minutes. For those of you who want to ask questions, yes, we will have a PDF of the slide deck before that's the first question. Really appreciate you coming up.
I brought swag.
Swag, all right.
So for those that have a question, I've got 365 ways to manage better, a daily page-a-day reminder on how to put it into practice. Anyone have a question? Any questions? Yes. Christy, pick this up. Thank you. Go ahead.
So I wanted to find out, how do you balance the frequency? I think you mentioned it earlier. If you say it daily, does it become ingenuine that people will just think, "Oh, she's just saying it because that's the thing to do"?
It depends how you deliver it. If you deliver it perfunctory, like it's a checklist. Okay, I did that. 2 o'clock on Thursday, I walked around, told everyone, doing a good job. If it doesn't feel real, yeah, that's going to be a joke. That's why each and every one of those is real. So you don't make up stuff. You don't do meaningless stuff. You don't say, "Nice outfit you have today." Real stuff related to the work that they did that made you both more successful. So it's constantly coming back to that. And there's a lot of that to talk about. So you don't have to make up stuff. And if each time you do it's real, it doesn't get old. I've never had a person say, "I just get too much recognition where I work." Yes, sir.
Possible here?
It is.
Like if all the managers are taught this way of recognition to be a standard practice, right? Then I think.
Yes.
But I think.
This is why I'm here. I'm here a little bit. Qualcomm's a great company, but I'm a little bit here as a wake-up call. Okay. You know, the standards have changed. You might have been here in the job for 20 years. Out there, it's changed. You're now competing with the Silicon Valley. Everyone that's worked for you can get a job in a heartbeat tomorrow. Make it more important for them to want to stay because they have a connection with you. Their connection to Qualcomm is through you, a leader. Show that in your behavior. And if everyone here does this is not, I think this is very real. And I've worked with a lot of companies to make this even more real. I've worked with Disney for 15 years. This drives all their success. I worked with I remember a company in Seattle. This woman, like a session like this, she left. She had all these notes, and she left with one thing in mind. This is real, and I'm making it happen. I'm not asking permission. I'm not waiting for someone else to have something set up. I'm doing this with my people. And she did. And I said, "Well, what did you do?" Well, one of the things, and she did just wild, fun things. We created a happiness committee. It had 5 people on it. No one knew who they were, but any one of them could say, "It's time to do something for morale." And they, well, what types of things? Well, they had a picnic up on their roof in downtown Seattle. Or they bartered meeting space, room like this, with a company on the next block that had a limo company, and they got limo rides for meeting space. And just by being creative, they started making things happen. Their people noticed, her people noticed in spades. And she got comments from other managers that, your people are on fire, what's going on over there? Come to the next meeting. It's no secrets here. We'd love to hear more about what you all are doing. And it spread. It spread, and it took on the facility. A leadership noticed and said, can you help us do this throughout the company? She did. That woman who was in the middle of the organization, a manager, a finance manager, from that conversation, fast forward 18 months later, that company, Perkins Coie, a law firm, entered the list of best places to work in America, number 23 on the list. I would contend from one person, lighting the fuse. Any one of you can do this. If you all do it, get out of the way, because it's going to happen. So yes, with all my heart, know that you can do this. And know that I presented some of the challenges. I know there's others as well. You're technical. So a lot of times the people are secondary. You're from many different nationalities. This is kind of an American thing. Individual, a lot of, in Japan, it's the nail that sticks up that gets pounded. You wouldn't want to tell someone that you did a great job in front of the staff, the person would resign out of shame. Seriously. So it's not that they don't need to feel valued. It's like you got to put it in terms that relate. So you're a valued member of our team, okay? And likewise. So there's other nuances that you have of all those constraints. Don't focus on what you can't do. Focus on what you can do. What you can do now to get going. Other questions? All the way back. Go ahead.
Hello. Do you think the notion of recognition being connected to a materialistic thing make people hold back a recognition? If I say, you did a good job, it must reflect in his next paycheck. If I tell my child, you did this good, I should hand out a candy. Hence, the candy is not good for my child, I will not hand it out.
No, I don't think that there's that connection. I think that you can make that connection and it can work against you. And so one of the things I noticed at Qualcomm is that when the recognition tools you have in terms of gift cards that you had, that the perfunctory that they tend to be given to the whole team when the project is finished. And I've talked to Qualcomm, I did a lot of focus groups. I talked to Qualcomm employees. I just joined the team. I didn't do anything on this, and I got a gift card. Well, that becomes meaningless. And the other person said, well, I got a gift card, and wow, that was nice, but then I got another gift card when I finished my 5th project. Well, that's not so exciting anymore, So yeah, it's not more powerful than anything you can give someone is the behavior, okay? And that's the magic of this. It's the behavior that makes them feel special. Do it, that's the homeroom, that's the foundation. And then if you have other tools, point system or gift cards or other things that you can do, that would be great. But there's no substitute. You can't pay people more and then they don't need this as much. There's a limit on what you can get from people just from the money. And there's a lot of research on happiness. At a certain point, 50,000, 75,000, more money doesn't make you more happy. And think about it. You get more money, you spend it on the Visa bill. But having someone, I've talked to engineers that they can take out of their wallet an email they got from their boss 18 years ago. Well, once my manager sent me this, and it made me feel like $1 million. And I keep it in my wallet as a reminder. That's the power. That's the power to touch someone and have them hold on to it forever. That's a highlight of their career. And that's the power each of you have if you take this seriously. Bonus points for staying late. Thanks, guys.
So there are so many books and discussions on this. Why do you think it's still not a regular process? Why do you think there's still a need? Do you think there is a need for having a tangible action tracking plan, or is there a need for having a certain key performance criteria? just since there are so many books out there, everyone reads it, but implementation becomes just so difficult, trying to understand.
The knowing-doing gap. And so I'm pleased to say, and I know that it's not all locked down yet, but the program we've been working on that instill here to roll out in coming months has a system for tracking recognition. Because one of the things I learned from Dr. Drucker is if you don't track it, if you don't measure it, or you can't measure it, or if you choose not to measure it, you can't manage it. And so if you do a bunch of gift cards and you don't know who got them and why they got them, and you don't know who gave them and why, then it's, you go to get more gift cards. Well, how did the program work? Who knows? People seem to like it. Let's do it again. It's meaningless. Companies that have a culture of recognition, it's not by accident. At Disney, it's not by accident. They hire to it. They train to it. They hold their leaders accountable. It's part of their performance measure. A third of their performance is measured. Are you a people person? Do you have vision? Do you talk about future with your employees? Do you catch them doing things right? And if they don't, if they find a manager, it's all about that. If they don't do it, they talk to them and say, maybe you thought we were kidding about this. We're serious about this. We're going to put you through the training again. And then if they still don't do it, they have a different talk. Everyone's not meant to be a manager. You're a great person, but you're not going to be a manager here. Let's find another role for you. We're not going to have you muck it up for your whole area, your department, your team, your division, because you're managing in a way that you were managed by your first manager 20 years ago. Not here. That's not going to happen. We told you this is the bar. This is what we expect from every leader, and every leader does it. And it drives all of their success, all the creativity, technology, customer, all their success, okay? In the same way, this will drive all your success. Innovation, okay? Having the best talent and pushing them to be their best. This is the keys to the kingdom to make that happen.
Thank you so much,
very
Dr.
much.
Bob.